Hey, welcome to What's Your Geek? I'm Rob Dorgan, and I'm here to talk about what I'm interested in, what you're interested in, and what's new, cool, and fun about Dungeons & Dragons, the world's greatest role-playing game. Now today you may wonder, why is he wearing that silly hat? Well, other than being a huge Monty Python, the Holy Grail fan, this is a cool hat, like if your players are going to meet a demon lord. You know, a few props here or there. You don't have to break the bank. You don't have to be like a artist and dress up in costume play, but something like this, give your players a chuckle, also give them like, oh, he's wearing the hat, he's now the demon lord kind of a thing, right? Well, let's say you want to like add a little spice to it. You know, instead of the demon lord, maybe you're the demoness lord, right? You put a little wig on the back. This is just a little ponytail wig, and suddenly you have some hair. Give your players another laugh. Maybe change it up. Maybe the demon lord has a sister or a mom, right? Other things you can do that are really simple is print out things. Like for one game, for example, I did this. This is just a little letter I did to the players, kind of invited them into the game. And I just used a script here, just kind of words got all kinds of like flowing scripts. You can just find them, looks fantasy based. This is just an odd picture I found on the internet. So this is like a little thing that in the adventure would bowl into someone's brain, and when they kill this arch villain, they find this thing in his brain and find out he was being controlled. I have no idea what this creature is. It looks cool. It's kind of odd and interesting, right? Here's another example. When I was running an adventure, and it just said in the text that this non-player character asked the players a bunch of different questions. So I actually came up with like a bunch of different odd questions, right? Just add a little bit into the game. It doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of imagination, but just a few little things that'll really go a long way for your players. Now in part 2, I'm going to show you what we can do with maps. Now maybe you're familiar with the dry erase maps or the battle maps you draw at a store, but big problem is when you buy an adventure, it's got these cool looking maps in there, and you're like, how do I translate that into like something my players can see? Well, I don't have a lot of layout or artistic or cartography background, but I was able to make some pretty cool maps, and I'm excited to show those to you next. Welcome back to What's Your Geek. So in part 2, we're going to move on to map creation. So I'm a big fan of using miniatures in Dungeons & Dragons or any kind of role-playing game because it really gets the players not only into the game by seeing the dimensions when you have a really large, miniature versus a smaller player character miniature, but also it can help when you're trying to figure out where people are versus just this abstract. It can help focus people, get them distracted away from their iPhones, their Android phones and things like that. So here we've got a typical dry erase map that's been used for years and years, and it's pretty functional and it works, but it's also pretty minimally interesting, right? You can see here's a recent adventure I was running. Here's like a kind of a concave room they were in with some secret doors. There was some dead bodies and an altar, and you can get an idea. If you put miniatures down here, you can see where things are, but it's not as interesting as having like a real colorful map. Now, if you're not an artist, right, you can't just draw this stuff yourself or a cartographer, then your options, are a little more limited. But I still think without a lot of necessary skills or background and a lot of money, you can still make a really cool map. So what I did is I bought for $1.75 this map called the Ruins of Thunder Tree. So this is the location my players are going to be going. And I want to take this map and I want to blow it up to a full-scale map that I can use miniatures for, right? Now this particular map was a challenge because the normal squares are 1-inch squares, which is a 5-foot in-game spacing. This uses a 10-foot per square, so I had to double the size of the squares. So instead of a 1x1 square, I had to make them 2x2. Now I use a program called PostRazor, P-O-S-T-E-R-A-Z-O-R. It was a free download from the internet, but I've heard of other programs called GIMP or Photoshop. You can probably accomplish a similar thing. So what I did is I first print out this map as a reference point. Then much like a puzzle, I used my PostRazor program to print out the size. And so using the dimensions, if this is like 30 squares by 20 squares, then I make each inch, each square 2 inches wide and then 2 inches long, right? And then I print them out, and how PostRazor does it is a PDF where it comes out in 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. So this allows me to take these pieces of paper and paste them all together. Now if you have access to like a printer or you have just a lot of money and want to print out a large poster map, you can do that in one single sheet. But I'm really showing it for the people that are on a budget, don't have money like just to throw away, and just without a little bit of tape and some glue stick, and we're good to go. So what I've got here is, first of all, I take and I just lay out the map as it's going to look. So just to make sure that I have it all looking fine. Now this last bottom piece is great because it's got lots of words here, and that makes it easy to have the correct orientation. However, if you forget, you can always use your big, reference map to show you like how it's supposed to look. Almost like putting pretty much like putting a puzzle together, right? And once you've got it laid out and you know it looks right, then you can start taking each piece by piece and taping it together. So what I do is, I take the tape, take off just a nice piece, try to put it right in the middle of one of the pieces of paper. These are all 8.5 by 11, right? And then I line this up, and I'm pretty, I have to be pretty exact about this, but it's not going to always be exactly right just because of the vagaries of the programs, and human error and cutting and pasting and stuff like that. But, I get it about as close as I can and tape it like that, right? Then it's basically a process of just going down the line and taping each piece over and over. And I do this row by row. I start with the top row, and then I started with the second row. I didn't try to do a whole row at once and then do a whole second row, because then you're trying to combine 2 rows at once. I find it's easier if you just take one piece of paper at a time. It really limits the possibility of error, that you can get the best condition for your map. So again, another piece of tape under here, because now I've got 2 by 2, right? 2 sides. Again, I take this, and now I'm trying to match 2 sides at once. So it's a little bit trickier than just matching the one side, but I kind of get it about as close as I can, and I'm good with that, right? And so on down the line. Now when I'm done with this, to give it a little bit stronger adhesion, particularly if I'm going to fold it up to have to carry it somewhere, then I take a glue stick, and right in here you can see this white line right here, or there's just a blank white space, and I just rub the glue stick right in there and just cement it right down. So now it's pretty solid and pretty intact. When you're done with something like this, you get a finished product that looks something like this. Now this one's only a 5 foot. 5 foot equals 1 square, so it's a much smaller map. It's much easier to work with. And as you can see, it's all glued together. It's all a nice single piece. I put all the tape on the back side, right? Because this way it doesn't cover up the front. The tape yellows, it gets worn. The map itself looks really nice. Now for some of these smaller maps, you can actually get a giant card sleeve. Magic the Gathering and other games use card sleeves. Well, this is basically just a huge card sleeve, and I've just slid this map, right? You can see from the back, it's just taped together. I've just slid it in a nice card sleeve, and now it gives me the opportunity, if I want to use dry erase, if events or conditions happen on the map, if this door gets broken open or something, I can scribble on that, right? So that's how, in pretty easy steps, you can make your own maps, have your own miniatures, and have your players going, wow, that looks pretty cool. Hey, welcome back. Was that not cool making those maps? Won't your players be blown away when they see all the skill and artistic flavor you have? And it's just yours and my secret that only spent you like an hour making those maps. So I really appreciate you watching What's Our Geek. I'd love it if you subscribe to our channel, leave some comments, tell me what else you'd like to see, and until next time, roll a crit.
Hey, everybody!
When I eat hot Cheetos, I get crazy.